Okay, we're recording. Okay. Good morning, everyone that's on the line. This is Kelsey Gallant from PSP Central at the Doctors of BC office. If you can see my talking, it's a bit loud. I'm just going to mute. If you can see me talking, it's going to look like I'm Erin Picard, who's also on the line. It's just my alias for the morning. I'm using her sign-in profile. So I'll sort of be moderating and co-facilitating with Pierce Tan from Telus Health. We're recording the session. We're expecting, I think, roughly about 15 people. We have 45 minutes. As always, if you want to ask questions, please do so on the phone, or there's also the chat feature, so I'll be monitoring that as we go. So you're welcome to send me a private message if you want me to ask something or address the group. Pierce and I will both try to keep an eye on that. And so that said, I sent out just a quick note to everyone yesterday. This is our first meeting, and we want ideally to have them going every 2 weeks for the duration of the pilot, and it's really just meant to be some time to come together as a group and just kind of have some, opportunity to ask questions. And it's really meant to be pretty informal and have you guys drive the conversation. That said, if there's some practical kind of operational things that we have to need to update you on, I think we'll probably use this as an opportune time to do so. So we do have a few things that we wanted to run through this morning, and then we just really wanted to open it up to you guys to ask questions. We're curious to know how it's going, if you've been using this, what the experience has been like for you in the practice, the questions that you're getting, the things that are kind of the hard questions, so that we can help as a group sort of figure out how to better support you. If there's additional documentation or training or whatever that looks like. So without any further ado, I'm just going to quickly jump right into the first couple of things that we wanted to go over. And the first thing, I'll probably ask Pierce to bring it up for us. We have taken a stab at creating some documentation. I would call it sort of training or teaching documentation. That we wanted to get some feedback on. Now, it's actually kind of a lengthy document, and it's got sort of a proposed or general outline of what you might cover off in a practice when you're doing this for the first time. And then we've also taken a stab at some FAQs. Now, we wanted to show it briefly today, knowing that we won't have time to get into detail, and actually really wanting you guys to kind of take it back and maybe mull it over a bit and perhaps talk to your colleagues and your regional teams a little bit about it. So expect to see an email from us asking for feedback. And I know it's going to be hard. It's not really a one-size-fits-all. Totally understand that, especially with regard to the time that you're given with the doctor, where the practice is at, how much work they have to do, will probably, I would assume, influence how many meetings you might have. But really our goal is to create some kind of documentation, some kind of legacy documentation. So if you were going to try to cross-train a colleague, or if someone wanted to try to pick this up, our goal is to have this documented. So that's kind of the impetus for getting something down on paper. So Pierce, do you want to just sort of do we want to bring up what we've got?
Yeah,
oh, you've
absolutely.
got that last. I'm sorry.
No, but that's okay. Okay. I've got these in a numbered list, but it's, okay. I know it's informal, and it's just my slide deck usually numbers it, but any order is fine today. So let me pull that up for you. And maybe I'll just mention, Kelsey, this is really what I've used in the past in the work that I've done with clinics. So that's kind of where the idea came behind. And, acknowledging what you've said, that there's a wide range of practices out there. And I know that, one size fits all doesn't always, work the best depending on the scenario you're in. So, with a plan like this, we always aim at over-delivering, adding as, all the information. And so it would really be up to you to, draw on those resources that you need. So the expectation isn't always that you're going to be going through every single piece. You may find it very useful your first couple times and then, not need it as much as you go on, but as long as you have it there. So what we've done is we've created a training or teaching plan for the Wolf and MedAccess platform. So let me just pull that up, and again, we will email that out to you. Make sure we can all see it here. So for those of you that joined in on our original RST sessions where we covered the material in both of the EMRs, this is roughly following that pattern. So all that information that we covered is laid out here for you. And again, I won't make the assumption that every physician meeting that you have will follow that format, but at least you've got those steps, on an actual plan. And what's really useful, I find, is having this before I connect with a doctor. It may not always be helpful or as useful while I'm sitting down with them, but it's a good document to have to draw on and to prepare with. So I'll just walk you through it. I'm not going to go through all the specifics here, but just give you an idea of what you'll be looking at. Of course, we're going to start off with our teaching objectives, what we're actually looking to accomplish. We always have a section at the beginning for preparation, so some things to keep in mind to refresh yourself on. A couple best practices that will be kind of key messaging throughout the document. So this is the first page, is just to help you orient yourselves and prepare. And then the following pages are really the steps that we covered in our session. So, we've got a little time allocated for, roughly how much time that takes. But again, of course, your environment may vary. So just keep that in mind as you draw upon this. Okay, so it just essentially walks you through, and again, it's a refresher if you haven't been at a clinic yet to cover this material, or it's been some time since your last one. We've got all the walkthrough steps and key messaging on the right-hand side. Okay, and again, scenario and suggestion. So, how to direct the conversation. But again, as I mentioned, we've included a lot of information here, so please use it at, what's useful to you.
Great.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure there's anything else in here that I'd be missing. But yeah, we've got screenshots and things like that, which are helpful. And as you can see, it's quite a lengthy document, but it covers every piece of the dashboard. And at the end, there's just a piece for you to, see the learning objectives, what you're able to cover. And this is also helpful. I'm hoping that'll be helpful as you prepare your plans with doctors, to check off what you're able to cover. And again, there might be things that you need to skip and not cover. So we hope that you find this useful. And we are really keen to get your feedback as you start to use it or how much you use it. Is there information that, that we could introduce that wasn't there? So we're keen for your feedback on this.
Agreed.
That was a Wolf document, the same as for MedAccess. I won't scroll down it, but it looks essentially the same, just the variances by the different components in the EMRs.
Hi, Pierce. This is Nancy in Prince Rupert.
Hi.
Hi. I don't know if that document was available beforehand, but yay, and thank you so much. This will be so helpful for going in to see the physicians. Yeah. We have the outcomes dashboard installed in two clinics, and I haven't had a chance yet to meet with the physicians, so this will be awesome preparatory work for me, or preparatory reading for me before I go in there. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's good. I'm glad to hear that. And for those of you, Nancy, I hope that's helpful for you as you continue connecting with doctors. And for those of you who may have had a session already with a doctor without this document, because, again, we only have it available today, I'll email it out, your feedback on, your interactions before and your interactions after, if you've noticed that it's been helpful, we'd appreciate hearing from you.
That's right. Yeah, and we've actually anticipated that we'll probably, we're just calling this meeting one. That's kind of, I don't know if that term really resonates with people, but understanding that likely you'll have at least a few call it interventions or sort of in practice sessions. So it's possible that maybe you'll say, well, you know, this is great, but I can't cover all of this in my first meeting. You know, for me, this looks more like I spread it out. Or so we're seeking that kind of feedback, and I'll provide some context and some sort of prompting questions when we send you the package. But Pierce and I are anticipating that we'll probably have more documentation that would sort of follow suit in terms of other follow-up meetings as your work with the practice progresses kind of down their road of actually doing the cleanup work.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kelsey. Yeah. You know, I would just add to that, in my experience, you know, and I know it's the same for all the RSTs out there. You're there to provide the value for the physician. You know, running through the whole document and make sure we're ticking off every single piece may not be value to everyone. So, of course, please use it as you need to. It's not a prescriptive, you must, you know, go through all of these pieces. It's really just there to help you. So. Great.
Great. So, okay, so yeah, so we'll definitely send this out. There's just one other document we wanted to quickly show you as well, which we're calling just a general FAQ. And that is really, it essentially could be quite broad. It could have, you know, questions about the pilot in general, compensation model, what is expected, all the way to actual, you know, questions that are more specific to the dashboard itself. So again, we've taken our stab at this and very much need your input to make it useful for you guys. I'm sure it'll be evolving as you are out there and encountering new questions. But here's what we have to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is a one-pager about the sharing FAQ. So this is for you, the RSTs, just so you've got a one-pager on the sharing pieces to help kind of guide those conversations and questions that you might receive. And I know in the previous sessions we did cover this, but this is just a little bit of an expanded version. So just really driving home, you know, what is shared when a physician opts to share their data. Okay, and note that no patient information is ever shared. It's just the statistics from the dashboard alone. And the idea that, you know, the reasons for this are to support individual physicians and clinics with their own metrics. This is not really a monitoring piece, but rather just to support them and help you, the RST, help them as well, because you have that access to see the data that physicians share. And of course, the important part of improving this initiative overall, so that data is helpful and for us to, you know, analyze how the project is going and areas that we can improve. And the third is the value added for physicians. So when a physician opts to share, their results become a peer comparison that they can see. So what that really means is, as a physician, if I opt to share, when I'm trending and looking at my statistics, I can see the peer average, an aggregated average of all the other doctors that are participating and sharing data. So I'm not able to see other physicians' data, just the average. So that might be helpful just to compare your statistics with the program overall.
Sorry, Pierce, this is Nancy again. So did you say you had an FAQ for the compensation as well?
So sorry, yes, I just wanted to clarify. I got, thank you for confirming, Pierce. This is actually more focused specifically on the sharing, but it is on our list of things to do. We actually have another meeting that an invite that we sent out for Monday. Kind of a good segue into what I think we were hoping to cover next. Anyhow, Pierce, I just wanted to prompt you guys. So on the topic of sharing, so we've done this FAQ specifically, and then I just, for any of you that have actually been in clinics doing this and have looked at the language in either of the Telus Health sort of, I think you call it, Pierce, the welcome tile, sort of like the welcome page, we just have slightly adjusted that, just very slightly. There's really no red flags in terms of what it means, other than we've just updated the language to state that it's in accordance with the Doctors of BC privacy policy. And then we also have added just our general PSP number. So if anyone is looking at this and is wondering, what does this mean, or I have questions, just so you know, the contact that we've put in is our central office for now. But of course, we're hoping and assuming that a lot of this will be looked at with your support while you're there, so understanding that you'll have the opportunity to address questions as they come up. Do you have the tile there?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Great.
So I just switched over. This is the RST viewer, or the PSP viewer. So I'm logged in, able to see the whole initiative. Not linked with a physician EMR, but here's that tile that you see and also physicians see in their EMR. And I'll just expand it. So this is a welcome tile that Kelsey was mentioning. So there's been a slight update to this, just in wording, but the overall spirit of it is the same. And the sharing as well, when a physician opts to share, let's see here. And, you know, because I'm in the PSP viewer, I don't have those sharing options, so I'd have to just navigate over to a physician.
No problem. Maybe while you're doing that, so I'll just, Nancy, for your question specifically, we've created other documentation that I think will help support you in terms of any operational questions around compensation and what the expectations of the pilot are, what we're sort of needing you guys to do in terms of information that we need back. So I'm hoping as many people as possible can attend Monday, because we'll have a really great session where we'll go over some of those details. And any gaps that you feel like, you need more key messaging or whatever it is that you think you need to kind of have in your back pocket for going into the practice, we can work on to make sure that you have. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you so much.
So here's the welcome tile. As Kelsey mentioned, we've got the PSP central number there. As well, there's a link to terms of sharing. So when we click on that, it updates the terms of sharing, and we can see that here. So again, the spirit of it is still the same, but just want to make you aware of the minor updates.
So we're really curious. I mean, I think maybe people want to offer some of their experiences to date here during this call now, or either in a few minutes. But I think, undoubtedly we haven't anticipated what all the questions will be. So we very much want to hear from you how it's going, what are the hard questions that you're coming up against, so that we can work together on addressing those and having, maybe like a little quick cheat sheet or with key messages for you to have in your back pocket, so that you feel confident answering any questions that they have when you're in the practice. So those are two. So yeah, we kind of went over the training resources that we're working on, and we'll send those to you guys and ask for some feedback on that. We've gone over quickly that there was just some minor updates to the sharing language. It's really nothing. I just wanted to bring it to your attention in case you've seen it before and kind of went, oh, that looks a little different. No big implications there, but we'll have more time to go through some of those things in detail on our pilot update call on Monday. And of course, those are more PSP-related process documents and things like that that would also have bearing to, for example, the InterHealth report. So, Pierce, anything else that you wanted to mention on those two things before we move on?
I think that we've covered it there. I think you've got it there. So
okay. Or are there any questions from any of the teams right now? Does anyone want to add anything or ask any questions about that before we move on? Okay. Okay, great. Well, so just a really quick, just wanted to note just a really quick refresher on the process to activate, which sounds very formal. But you know, the pilot's been going quickly. Like we kind of got it going quickly, and we've had like a lot of interest. So we've been getting a lot of sign-up information from you guys, which is great. But we're kind of learning on the fly too. And as you can understand, I'm sure at this point we've got sort of you know, we're sort of co-managing it. So we've got PSP Central and Erin Picard, who's very much coordinating the fulsome list. So we've got, you know, we know that we only have, for example, at this point, 100 spots for MedAccess and Wolf and so forth. So she's helping gather that GP information from you as you're going out there and figuring out who, you know, that you're working with is interested. And then, of course, we need to share that information with Pierce. We've had a couple instances where we very much are in contact and reconciling those lists, and we've had just a few doctors that Pierce had on his list that Erin didn't have, which tells us that maybe a few of you had gone directly to him. And it's been okay because we've been in good communication and caught that, but it's just really important to remember, please just try to send everything to Erin, who will make sure Pierce gets it. And then Pierce, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that sort of how the weekly activations go is that if you can send us the information for a GP, if you send it to Erin by Monday end of day, they will be activated by Pierce and his team by the Friday of the same week. But activations always happen, I guess, Thursday overnight. So, you know, they would be, the dashboard would be available presumably Friday morning. And so if you, for example, send Erin the information on a Tuesday, you won't actually be able to, you know, use the dashboard with the clinic until the following Friday. Is that accurate, Pierce?
That's absolutely accurate. So, so yeah, so the only real, you know, goal there is if you know of someone upcoming, if we get those, you know, on Monday, then we're good to go for that week. Otherwise, you do have to wait one more week. And I'll just add as well, Erin communicates, you know, which RST is associated with which physician or EMR, and then I send out a follow-up email. So I'll confirm with you when it's absolutely activated, because once we do that update, we also go through and just quality check and make sure everything's set to go. We just want to make sure that you're all set to go when you arrive in clinic. So, of course, I'll be sure to email you.
Yes, so that's another. So you can know for sure that it's been turned on when you've received that email from Pierce. Good point. Are there any questions about that part? We're like we have to say, and Pierce, maybe you want to show. I don't know if now is a good time to bring up the kind of how we're doing with the numbers. Yeah,
absolutely.
But we're all very pleasantly surprised, somewhat taken aback by how much interest we've had. We're in touch with the leads, so we're kind of monitoring where we're at, and some of the health authorities have had more than others, but overall, this is a little provincial snapshot of where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just give you a little update on where we're going, and right now we're just focusing on this left-hand stage. That's, of course, recruiting physicians who are confirming that they'd like to be engaged in the project. And then the second stage is us, of course, turning on that dashboard for them. As Kelsey mentioned, we're aiming at 100 doctors in each EMR, so the Wolf and MedAccess. And so far, what we have, this P1 enabled really just stands for we've actually turned on the feature in their EMR. So far across the board, we've enabled 106 doctors, which is we're over halfway through that activation stage, which is really, really great to see. And I just have to say thanks to all of you for, for those of you on the street who are connecting with doctors and recruiting. I've definitely seen the impact of your work, so thank you. What I'll give you next is maybe this might be a little bit more valuable to see, but I just want to give you, a view of where we're headed and where we've come from. And I'll plan every time we do a cafe like this, I'll just make sure we spend a minute or two just giving an update on how the project is going, just so that you see, the greater project that you're a part of as well and where we're all headed. So in January is when we started kicking it off here, and what we're looking at is the green represents the MedAccess EMR, and the purple is representing the wolf. And the little bars here are really the target that we've set per month, so that we've planned for to activate. So you can see we started with MedAccess in January, and we had a target of 25, and we enabled 25 doctors, so that's great. It was a strong start. And then we began to ramp up in February, which is last month now that we're on the 1st. And you can see that our goal for MedAccess to activate was 45 physicians, and we exceeded that with 50. So, and again, with Wolf as well, we aimed for 30, and we activated 31 doctors. So again, that's kudos to all of you on the call today. We couldn't have done it without your work. So that's really great news that I want to share with you. And I also just wanted to share with you kind of where we're heading. So you can see the next couple months we've got some more people to recruit. So as you continue to connect with physicians, feel free to, and of course, let Erin know, and we'll continue that, that implementation process from our end.
Thanks, Pierce. Thanks.
Yeah.
So,
any questions?
Okay, and yeah, any questions about activations or just general project questions pilot questions we can answer?
Yes, I have a question. I put forth the name a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't received an email. So, Pierce, should I connect with you directly or send it back to
Yeah, feel free to connect with me. Is that Chris? Or
this is Ronnie.
Oh, sorry, your name, Ronnie. Sorry, I apologize.
Ronnie.
Ronnie, okay. Let me connect with you offline after this call. If you have a minute or two, I'd be happy to connect.
Yeah, if you guys could loop Erin in as well, that would be great. Then we can just make sure we have all of our T's crossed, I's dotted.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. So the only other thing is really, it's not actually an update, but Pierce and I were just more curious, wanted to ask, for those of you, it's around access. So acknowledging that the way this is working is that, so if you have a GP that's working in a group practice that's signed up to the pilot, actually, so anyone working in the practice will be able to see the dashboard, but based on roles. I think Pierce can kind of confirm that in more detail. But just wanted to ask, have you run into any situations where you're working with a GP in a group practice whose colleagues have been sort of interested or intrigued, or is that posing any problems for you? I think it's a bit of a tough one for us because, of course, it's a pilot, and we did, the intent of that was to keep it kind of controlled so that we could learn a bit more about, how the tool works, what questions this evokes for the physicians, what kind of work it evokes, how we're supporting the work, all those things. But we also have no, real ability for any of the colleagues to kind of not look at this. So I guess it becomes a matter of, how do we, if there's interest, try to engage them through, I guess, more the formal pilot process. So just curious, has anyone, are people, A, aware of that, and B, have you had any instances where other physicians in the practice have been, either looking at it or asking you questions?
Hey, Kelsey, it's Ron here from the Interior.
Hi.
Hi. We ran into that with one of our clinics actually just the other day, where we heard from the MOA from the physician that we were originally working with that there might have been some interest from one of the other physicians who hadn't signed up for the pilot that we were aware of. And yes, we spoke to her the other day, and they were really interested and wanted to be involved. But she had a look through it and found it very interesting, so brought it to the attention of her physician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get them involved in the pilot as well.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of like a best case scenario, because you're finding out about it kind of before it kind of gets legs of its own. That's great. Anyone else?
This is Nancy in Prince Rupert, and I did have another physician that was interested in the pilot, but unfortunately we didn't have the outcomes data dashboard installed in the clinic yet, so I couldn't actually show him. So now that it's there, I'm hoping to go back and show him and see what he thinks about it, and especially with that the teaching document that you've got, that will be awesome to take in there too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Great. Well, just keep us posted on that front. We're curious to see, I mean, I guess, so the idea is we just want to be in the know if it's kind of taking off and becoming, I guess, problematic for you in the context of work is happening and you're not, it's not like, you know, you're not being sort of formally involved, and what that could look like, how that could cause confusion, or it could start to feel a bit disconnected. So just acknowledging that could, you know, it's a risk, although risk might sound too, I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, we're just wanting to hear from you if that starts to happen more and more. And of course, the intention of the pilot is to very much to roll this into an integrated part of our program, and certainly we have full confidence that will happen, although, you know, I suspect that nuances around the work and how it's supported, maybe the funding model and all that might change a bit as we start to look at extending this out to more numbers. But I don't think you need to be worried about like the messaging being like, oh, you know, only a pilot and there won't be, you know, I think the messaging can be, there will be opportunity to do this work if people are interested. So, Pierce, I think that's actually all. One of the things that we were going to talk a little bit about, but unfortunately, the person that we were going to ask to share couldn't make it today. She's at the quality forum, but Shafali, who is with the Fraser team, has actually had some success getting a few of her practices to share their metrics. So we were going to ask her to talk a little bit about that, but she couldn't be here. So she's said definitely next time. So I think that's all from my list. Pierce, do you have anything else that you want to go over before we open up the floor?
I think that was it for updates, and I know we're kind of heavy on updates this week just because it was our first one, but, you know, in future we're hoping to have more time for just discussion and Q&A. But, yeah, if there's anything pressing from the group or questions that you've had.
So, yeah, let's open up. So we've got 10 minutes. Curious to hear any questions. No question is silly or wrong or out of scope. So wanting to open it up to you, and I know we only have 10 minutes, which isn't a lot, so we'll try to be less heavy on the updates next time and have more informal dialogue. Also, if there are things specifically like in advance of these meetings, if you're like, I really want to talk about this, if you could send us that, like if you could just fire us an email beforehand, that would be super helpful, because then if I need to, you know, if we need to prepare or dig up any information, that would be great. So just a little side note there, but I want to turn it over to you guys.
Hi, Costa here. Kelsey, thanks for clarifying that no question is out of scope or silly or anything like that, because I've been kind of curious about this, but not sure when was the appropriate time to ask. So for more advanced Med Access users have had the ability to have some kind of dashboard in their system for what, like say a year and a half, close to 2 years now, right?
Yeah, they've had dashboards for a couple of years actually, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious, I have some doctors in Vancouver who are pretty on top of things, have some custom dashboards, but are also interested in this pilot and have actually been signing up for this pilot. Are there going to be, or what's your elevator pitch for the substantial difference between the new dashboards that are going to be installed and the ones that they may have custom configured and have available to them right now?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Can I take a stab first?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good question, Costa, and I think that we make a lot of assumptions about, you know, I think who might want to do this kind of work. So tool aside, right, like knowing that practices are all at sort of different levels with how they're coding information in the EMR, you know, who might benefit out of this exercise. And actually, ironically, a lot of some of the, what I would call sort of the really early, like the beta testers of this, and all the EMRs, by the way, even IntraHealth with their report, were practices who I, you know, had some sort of assumptions about around that I thought were probably fairly, you know, high functioning. And it was interesting because they sort of viewed it as, I guess, a tool to kind of validate some assumptions that they also made about where they were at with their own data. And also brought up some thinking of a MedAccess user specifically who, you know, kind of it evoked some questions for him around specifically how he had been coding things diligently. He just hadn't necessarily been using some of the codes that were more captured in the context of the parameters of this report, and that for him just kind of, I think, spurred some thought and discussion with his peers and colleagues about what he should be doing. So it might not be that people that are, you know, very high functioning get a lot of new information out of this report. It might just be simply a temperature check of, yeah, okay, this is sort of what I thought, and good, I'm on track. And when I'm having conversations with our management team at Doctors of BC and thinking about, you know, again, scoping this out as a more of a standard program offering, and just thinking about some of the lessons learned from the pedo ODD, and I think, you know, what we as a program need to be able to do is to help physicians that want to do this work sustain. And so, you know, would this be something that we're suggesting people do annually as kind of like a spring cleaning or something? It could have an element of that. Maybe, you know, maybe there's a little bit of funding attached to that. I'm not sure. I'm speculating, but from my perspective anyway, even if the practice is high functioning, it might just be a bit of a temperature check to say, because this is really the non-sexy stuff. So I'm making some assumptions, Costa, about the other kinds of dashboards that they're using that might be a little bit more clinically interesting to them. This might not be that way, but it's more just a general housekeeping, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes some sense. And I think the other thing that I'm hearing when you're talking is that since the dashboards are standard, kind of that point that Pierce brought up earlier, that it's possible to do some comparisons against your peers in that like comparing your aggregate data against what is the mean or average of your peers. And that comparison piece might end up being a strong motivator for a few physicians as well that are on that, you know, they're on that high functioning side. But they may be within the context of their own clinic, they're doing the best in their own clinic, but maybe they want to have that measuring stick a little as well.
Good point.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to add to that?
That's great comments, great question. The other thing that I can think of is the elevator pitch is that when they share, that equips you to continue your work with them. Because what you've probably experienced so far is that you see those statistics and you have to, you know, take a look at that when you're in clinic. Whereas if a physician opts to share, then you can track that, you know, outside of the clinic. So that's something that you can, you know, help them with as you continue, your work and visits. And not only that, you know, speaking, Kelsey, to your point about, you know, some physicians out there may have been doing it maybe slightly different, but also considering down the road, you know, things that may be available to them. Logged me out there. But, you know, there's value in taking a closer look at this.
Cool. So from a per tool perspective, I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, is it's very possible that depending on whatever custom dashboards they had configured, they could be getting the same data out of their EMR as these dashboards are showing them. The main difference being that these are standard dashboards that can then be applied using the same reporting functionality across whole populations of EMR.
Yeah, that's right. And so, you know, we'll find a different situation with our Wolf physicians because they've not had this at all in the past. So the MedAccess doctors have had some dashboards in the past, but they don't have all the same functionalities as we do here. So that's something to consider. You know, I might just, sorry, I don't want to take up the time with, did you have something to say there, Kelsey?
Costa, as you have those conversations, I'm curious to hear, because I think we do need to understand where the value is or is not for physicians at sort of all levels, and what the perceptions are around, I guess, like duplication of things that they're already using. I think there's an assumption that a lot of the value for this work is for practices that maybe aren't, you know, coding things as consistently as they could be, or really want to do some work around getting the data in their EMR in sort of better order and understanding how many active patients they want. But what I have heard from the sort of the handful of doctors that I think were kind of already there was that this was actually just a good exercise into sort of validating that, and that each of them took something new out of it. It wasn't completely like, you know, this wasn't worth my time. For the most part, they had a lot of confidence in the sort of the fidelity of the data. They understood where things were pulling from, but that still, you know, it evoked some like, oh, you know, why isn't it pulling all of my X patients? Well, I've been coding it this way. And then, you know, it's up to them to decide, do they want to change or not change, but at least they're understanding why aren't they appearing in this, or, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good message that you could take to any doctor, regardless of how, you know, high functioning or advanced they are with their EMR.
Yeah. And I would say as well, in my experience, when sharing this new dashboard feature with doctors, even doctors who I would consider to be, you know, super users or, you know, been using their EMR for a really long time, it gives them a different perspective, because they're often used to looking at their data the way that they've been looking at it. And it offers them a chance to look at it from a slightly different perspective and evaluate kind of how they've been doing certain processes and how others are doing it as well. You know, I was hoping to draw on Shefali a little bit in this session, but unfortunately she couldn't make the meeting. But I can see the data here. This is the PSP viewer, and I have worked with a doctor who started sharing, very proficient user, been using the EMR for a long time. But, you know, right away, if I was supporting the doctor, I could see, you know, we've got a significant number of patients that the EMR is saying you have not seen before, but you're marked as a primary provider. Now, I don't question the way that this doctor is practicing, but I do think that there's probably an area that this doctor hasn't considered in the data in the EMR. So I really do think there's strong value for those who have been using that EMR for a long time and those who are even really new, because it does allow you to take a step back and look at it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good point. So, wow, I can't believe it. It's already 10:45, so we're technically at time. But that was a really good question, Costa. Thanks for asking it. Exactly the kind of dialogue that we want to make sure we can have in these meetings. So we'll do our best to not talk at you so much next time. Any other pressing questions? I'm not specifically rushed to go, but I want to be respectful of other people's time. Does anyone else need to get anything out there before we wrap up for today? Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Can I ask one?
Yeah.
If we have specific requests or feedback from the pilot, should we be collating that or kind of sending it as it comes?
Good question. Yeah, so on Monday, hopefully you can make it. If you can't, we're going to record it and we'll send out some subsequent documentation. But you'll see a little bit more about how we're building in some provision for both the physician to provide feedback directly on the pilot and how, like, you know, how this work was of value or not to them. And then also wanting to provide that same opportunity to you guys. So yes, we want to hear your feedback, and acknowledging that right now there's no formal way other than sending us an email. So if it's good, please do that now. But we'll look more and talk more on Monday about how to kind of channel that in a way that might be just helpful for us to kind of keep it organized and see trends, et cetera.
Awesome.
So yeah, for now, Joanne, though, please just feel free to email Pierce, myself, Erin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. And I'll just add, I just wanted to put up the slide with my contact again. Feel free to reach out to me anytime, phone, email, whatever works best for you. I'm happy to answer questions as we go and support you as I can. And those common questions that come up, I'm happy to bring as well to these learning cafes, because I'm sure if you've got the question, probably someone else does too. So there's my contact.
Great.
Feel free to give me a ring anytime.
Yeah, shout out to you. We're very lucky to have this level of support from Telus. It makes a big difference in, I think, the success of the work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, have a great rest of your day. We'll send out the recording as well as the documents we promised for your feedback. And I hope most of you can make it on Monday, because we'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about process and just more internal PSP things on Monday. So have a great day, great rest of your week, and talk to you Monday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.